Well, good morning. Happy February. It's a typical February day, isn't it? Just it kind of reeks of February when it's like this. The title of my talk is Wheel of Fortune. And I haven't seen the TV show but a couple of times, but I think we're supposed to open together, right? And we're supposed to enthusiastically say that together, is that right? So let's do it again. You ready? The title of my talk is The Wheel of Fortune. You guys are good. Okay. So we got everything but Vanna White. Is that Vanna that goes with the Wheel of Fortune, or is that another show of hers? So I want to talk about three different wheels. The first one being the Wheel of Fortune. And it's really a symbol that's been around in a lot of different forms for a long time. It comes out of the Western folklore tradition. And it is a concept that visually predicts what appears to be the capricious nature of life and of what we might call fate or good luck or bad luck. Stuff happens. We don't know why. So it would seem. Fortuna, the goddess of the Wheel of Fortune, the goddess of fate, spins the wheel idly, whimsically, and wherever it lands, all of humanity is affected in one way or another. Some of us, good fortune, some of us, misfortune, some of us, no fortune. But it appears to be something that happens to us. Life happens to us, you see. So I'd like to talk about the Buddhist view of the Wheel of Fortune. And one of the particular teachings around this concept is something called the 8 worldly dharmas. It's typically included in some of the Vajrayana traditions. The 8 worldly dharmas are the 8 experiences that we have that typically cause us to grasp, resist, get lost in delusion of some sort. The 8 worldly dharmas are pleasure and pain, right? We all have pleasure, we all have pain. Loss and gain. Stock market goes up, stock market goes down. Gold market, bond market, apple market, meat market. It all goes up, it all goes down, you see. Everything changes, and it seems to, for many of us, it just seems to happen. Loss and gain, praise and blame. There's another one, you see. We all have been praised, we've all been blamed. We deserve the praise, of course, not the blame. But we've all had that experience. And fame and shame. Fame is, everyone thinks well of you and you're a nice person, et cetera, and then boom, something happens and shame comes to you, you see. Pleasure, pain, loss and gain, praise and blame, fame and shame. Little jingle. So the practice is to have as much equanimity as possible with all of our life experiences. And equanimity means we accept everything equally. Well, obviously, there are very few of us that can accept pleasure and pain equally, or loss and gain, or praise and blame. We all prefer the good stuff that feels good, and we don't like being blamed, we don't like pain, we don't like loss. But what if we could hold each one a little more lightly? And so that instead of being addicted to pleasure and repelled by pain, what if we could prefer pain, or prefer pleasure rather, and just prefer not to have pain? But there doesn't have to be resistance, you see, because that resistance is where the edge of suffering is. The more we grasp on one and push away the other, that's where the edge of our suffering is. So it's not about a commandment saying thou shalt accept everything equally. I mean, we're not going to do that. That's not human nature. But it's about playing with these experiences in such a way that, oh, I notice I'm really grasping on to pleasure right now. Or I've been blamed and I'm really angry and I can feel myself resisting it, And somebody else that gives us praise, we want to be with that person, you see. If you ever notice, we like to be with the people that say nice things about us, and we don't like to be with the people that don't. So that's the difference between a friend and a foe. So we swing back and forth. Our fortune goes around, and our misfortune goes around and around. So the practice, in a practical sense, the practice is to just notice. Notice when I'm attached to blame or fame, when I'm attached to fame and resisting blame, praise. So notice when you're pushing one away and pulling the other one towards you. You don't want to let go, because that's the edge of our suffering. So there's another wheel I want to talk about. It's not quite as pretty as the Wheel of Fortune. This is the one on the right, but you've probably seen it before. It's often depicted on the walls of monasteries and temples in Tibet, Nepal. It's called the Bhava Chakra. The Bhava Chakra is sometimes known as the Wheel of Life or the Wheel of Samsara. And what it is, it's a teaching, the Buddhist teaching of samsara, the Buddhist teaching of dependent origination, the Buddhist teaching of what drives us from lifetime to lifetime, from experience to experience, all of it in a symbolic form rather than in a written form, which we're normally used to. So these mandalas were put together at a time when maybe a lot of people were not literate. They couldn't read, and yet you could see the symbol, the mandala. Meditating upon the mandala, they could absorb the teaching as well as anybody that was an able reader. So the Bhava Chakra, which is the one on the right, is a symbolic representation of the Buddhist concept of samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. So the Bhava Chakra has 3 layers, starting with the inmost layer. What do you think it means? What do you think is at the center of all of it that's driving samsara? I'll give you 3 guesses. Greed, craving, aversion. The 3 poisons, Craving, resistance, delusion, or ignorance. Sometimes in the writings, it's called ignorance. Ignorance really means delusion or unconsciousness. It doesn't mean not having a high IQ. It's much more than that. So we see at the very center, there's I don't know if you can see it or not, there's a pig there that represents delusion or ignorance. You can see a serpent in there that represents, can you see it up there? Can you get to it? Great. Thank you. And you're not the guy that hangs out at the airport, are you? Okay, just checking. So the snake represents aversion, and the bird represents craving. So anytime you see that in Buddhist art, the pig, the snake, and the bird, that means the three poisons: craving, aversion, and delusion or ignorance. That's the cog that spins the wheel. That's the axle. Greed, craving, and aversion. The second layer of the wheel represents karma. That's the law of cause and effect. Karma is the force that determines our rebirth in samsara. So you can see that second wheel. There's all sorts of symbols in there. And then the third wheel, which is the larger, broader wheel that looks kind of like sectors or pieces of pie, the wedge-shaped pieces. Those represents the 6 levels of existence according to Buddhist cosmology. And if you look at the upper right, which is basically about 2 o'clock if it was a clock, that is the human realm. And then just underneath the human realm, going clockwise, if you go down to about 4 o'clock, that is the realm of the hungry ghost. That's a realm of unrelenting craving, desire. Down at the very bottom is the realm of the hell realm, they call it, where there's intense suffering. Coming up to around 7 o'clock or so, that's the realm of the animals. And then coming up again is the realm of the demigods. And at the very top, where 12 o'clock would be, that's the realm of the gods, the Brahma Viharas, the abode of the gods. So according to Buddhist cosmology, after we die, if we're not an enlightened being, then we come back again to work off whatever karma we have generated in the past. And it's not a punishment, it's simply a natural consequence of as we sow, so shall we reap, you see. So that's the wheel of karma, the Bhava Chakra. The Bhava Chakra is held by a fearsome beast. You can see a picture of him up at the top. And his name is Yama. He's the god of death. And he represents impermanence. So the whole cycle of existence is held in impermanence. It's driven by greed, craving, delusion, and it's characterized by impermanence, constant change. The wheel is constantly moving, you see. The moon above the wheel on the upper right, you can see it there, that represents the possibility of freedom. And in some pictures, I don't think you can see it in this one, there's a picture of the Buddha pointing to the moon, and that's the Buddha pointing to the Dharma as a way of becoming enlightened, escaping the wheel of samsara. And this is really what Buddhism is all about in terms of philosophical or religious aspects. It's about escaping this wheel of continuous rebirth. We don't have to keep going on the merry-go-round. There are better things for us to do. we come back because there's something we need to learn to purify. It's kind of like a self-graded program in school, you know. You just keep taking the course until you pass the test, and then you go on, you know. So we don't flunk. It's not about good or bad. It's simply about learning, purifying, becoming that which our potential is. Now, in spite of all of this stuff, of greed, craving, aversion, and suffering, and so forth, our pure nature is always there, and it's never touched. Okay? But most of us, because of that suffering, it obscures our access to our true nature. We don't see, we're not aware of our true nature. It didn't go away, but it's kind of like a day like this. Where's the sun? You know, you could say, where'd the sun go? Well, the sun's where it always is at this time, you know. But we can't see it because of all the obscurations. You see. So then the final third wheel, which is on the left, is called the Dharma chakra. And the Dharma chakra is a symbol for Buddhism. And it's also a symbol that's been around for a long time. It predates Buddhism. It was used in Hinduism, Jainism, and then the Buddhists adopted it as a symbol of Buddhism. And again, it represents the teachings of the Buddha, the cosmic law, the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. In Buddhism, the wheel, as you can see, it has eight spokes, and those 8 spokes represent the Eightfold Path. Because as you may know, the essence of the Buddhist teaching is the Four Noble Truths, and the fourth Noble Truth is the prescription for samsara, which is the Eightfold Path. So I want to talk a little bit about the Eightfold Path and its application. So you can think about the Eightfold Path as a wheel. And I don't know if you've ever worked with a native medicine wheel, but I have at one time for a number of years. And one of the beautiful things I love about it is with the Native American medicine wheel, the outer rim represents your journey through life, and the pieces coming into the center, the rocks as they are coming into the center, represent the fact that at any point in one's life, you can move into the center. And it's the same center, but the journey in teaches us something that the other spokes don't teach us. So it's a unique way to learn. You know, maybe we're learning love, maybe we're learning wisdom, maybe we're learning strength, maybe we're learning discipline. Maybe we're learning to release, let go. But each of these disciplines is a different learning that takes us to the same place. Somewhat like a labyrinth where you're all over the place, and then eventually we all wind up in the middle. Some of us, it seems like, wander more than the others. Sometimes it feels like we've lost the labyrinth and we're out in the parking lot somewhere looking for our car, you know. But that's just the way it feels. So typically the first of the Noble Truths, the first of the Eightfold Path and the Fourth Noble Truth is all part of the Eightfold Path, which is right understanding, is the first one. Right understanding means really understanding what we're doing. So if you're going somewhere, it's a good idea to know where you're going and how you're going to get there. You see, because we may be traveling, and if we're going the wrong direction, we may be thinking everything's going great, it feels good, and we don't wind up where we want to. You see? So the wisdom part of it is the understanding. That understanding is a combination of study, listening to Dharma talks, and applying it to our own life. That's really the key. I used to teach math for a number of years, and in teaching mathematics, as you may remember, basically what you do is you teach a formula or a theorem or some basic principle of mathematics or physics or whatever you're teaching, and then you give the students problems to work on. You see? We think we understand the formula, but you don't really understand the formula until you can work it to solve a problem. That's when you know that you know it, you see. Well, it's the same way with life. You know, we can believe the truth, we can understand the truth, but if we can't work it in our everyday life, we really don't know it. So, understanding, why am I doing this? What is the Eightfold Path? What are the Four Noble Truths? You know, who was the Buddha? Who is the Buddha? The second, and this is part of the wisdom collection too, is called right intention. Right intention answers the question, why am I doing this? That's a very important piece. You know, because if I'm doing this practice for the wrong reason, it's not going to get me where I want to go. You see? I may be doing the right thing for the wrong reason. You know, maybe I want to feel good. Maybe I want to use this practice to boost my ego in some way. Maybe I want to use this practice to feel better physically, or to have a better love life, or to be healthier, or whatever it is. There's nothing wrong with any of those things, but that's not the right intention for why the Buddha taught this. So it's very important to really be aligned with, what am I doing? What's my understanding of what I'm doing? And why am I doing them? Good questions to ask ourselves about most anything we do, right? What am I doing? Do I know what I'm doing? And do I know why I'm doing it? Sometimes I want to include that into my wedding ceremony. You know, do you know what you're doing and why you're doing it? But that wouldn't be fair. Nobody would be getting married if I did that. So that's called the wisdom section or characteristic. The sila or ethical section comes next. So first we gain wisdom by knowing what we're doing, why we're doing it. And then before we're ready for meditation, this is in the traditional East, we practice the sila, the ethical practices. We need to purify the way we live our life. We don't put a whole lot of attention on this in the Western teachings. We tend to focus more on the meditation aspects of it. But right action, right speech, very important, right livelihood, you know, right speech. When I say something, do I know that it's kind? Do I know that it's true? And do I know that it's even necessary to speak? You know, if we didn't say anything unless it passed those three gates, it'd be a lot more quieter. And you'd be a real bore at the cocktail party, but nonetheless, you'll find other ways to relate to people. Much better ways, actually. Right action, Right action consists of five sections, 5 characteristics. Not hurting anyone physically through killing or physically harming anyone. Right speech, which I've talked about already. True, charitable, necessary. Right use of our sexual energies, not engaging in sexual activity that's harmful to anyone, including ourselves. Non-stealing means not taking anything that's not given to us. That doesn't mean not taking something that belongs to someone else. It's not taking anything unless it's specifically given to us. Big difference, right? I mean, when the Europeans landed on this continent, they did not follow this precept. They said it doesn't belong to anybody I know, so therefore I'm going to take it. Right effort is part of meditation. Meditation is a matter of always gauging when to kind of push and when to relax, when to concentrate, when to open up. So meditation is always like an organic process of what do I need to do? Do I need to get more clarity and concentration? Or do I need more equanimity? Do I need to relax more and let things happen? Do I need to put more effort into my work? You see? Always, this is why it's always helpful to have a teacher, because she can help you with this. Right livelihood. How am I spending my life energy? 40, 50 hours a week, day in and day out. Is what I'm doing harmful or helpful? Does it promote suffering or does it promote wholesome freedom from suffering? So, looking at all the ramifications and going beyond this to a consumer culture, how does what I buy, what I wear, what I drive, the products I use in my home, how does that impact the environment? How does that impact other people? Does it create more suffering? I was talking to a young man one time coming back from a meditation retreat, and he said he was really struggling because he was a investment broker in New York City. And he was making, oodles of money, and he liked the work. But he says he really felt like he was going to have to leave because he could see that he was conflicted. He had to maximize the profit for his clients. And at the same time, to do that, he saw that he was recommending companies that were abusing the environment, that were taking advantage of people in third world countries, et cetera, et cetera. So it takes a lot of mindfulness to live consciously. It's not easy. There are lots of things to be examined. And it's not about being good or being right or wrong. It's about being mindful. Am I aware? Do I know what I'm doing? Right mindfulness is another part of the meditation practice. Right mindfulness is sustained awareness. That's really what it is. It's being aware constantly, if you can, or continuously. Right concentration is sustained attention. It's being able to focus on one thing and hold the attention there without being distracted all over the place, you see. So, the Dharma chakra, one aspect is the Eightfold Path. In every moment of my life, which is represented by the circle, I can come into the center. I can touch my Buddha nature through any one of the 8 spokes at any time. So let's just take a moment to home to that center, the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. Know that we sit as the Buddha. We listen to the Dharma. We live the Dharma. All our relations are the Sangha. May all beings be free from suffering. Thank you for sharing your practice with us.